Welcome back here to the finals of the Syracuse Open, sponsored by Ultimate Guard. Ross Merriam versus Matt Voltz. Neither player has dropped a game in the top 8. We're underway. Ross, by virtue of being the 2 seed, is on the play. He'll start the game on Insolent Neonate. We go over to Matt Voltz. Dredge has been the talk of the tournament, doing some fundamentally broken things. On Matt's side, Breach is a deck that no one would really say is too unfair. It's the kind of deck that if keeps people honest. If they get too fancy, it can really punish them.
It's the type of deck that generally preys on fair decks and gets beat up by unfair decks. This just happens to be an unfair deck that's slow enough.
Insolent Neonate from Ross was the turn 1. He then uses its ability. He'll discard and draw. So he discards Golgari Grave Troll and then dredges it. He's going to have to go fast here. He puts into the graveyard a Prized Amalgam, a Faithless Looting, and a Dakmor Salvage. So 3 dredging cards, and then 2 lands and a Shriekhorn.
In order to win this match, Merriam's dredges need to look a lot more like a fistful of Bloodghasts and some backup Amalgams.
Dredges Dakmor Salvage for the turn. No Bloodghast, as you mentioned, but he does have another Prized Amalgam. So we go to Ross's second turn. And for Matt Voltz, his first turn was a Suspending Search for Tomorrow. That is actually the best turn 1 that Red-Green Breach can do.
Yep. You'll be able to have that, cast a Ram spell on turn 2, really start getting into very high mana count on turn 3.
If he has the turn 2 Ram spell, we have to watch out for turn 3 kills from the Breach deck.
Yep.
Ross will suspend Greater Gargadon and pass the turn. So, second turn from Voltz, Search goes down to 1.
Well, that was a really great draw for Bolts. Anger of the Gods was the pickup, so even if things go a little bit wrong, that's quite powerful.
Suspends a second Search for Tomorrow. So, this is actually interesting. A lot of times the Red-Green Breach deck will not suspend a second one of these. If you want to play a fast game plan, you don't suspend the second one.
Right, you can just cast it because it fetches the land untapped.
Right.
And you can use that to cast another Ram spell on that turn.
But if you want to play a more laid-back, Anger of the Godsy style game plan, this is a great way to approach here.
Yeah.
So Ross will fetch for a tapped Blood Crypt on the end step, and now we start the third turn. No dredgers in the yard for Merriam. He's going to have to just draw off the top.
Notably, the suspended Gargadon helps Ross a little bit against Anger of the Gods. It doesn't completely cold him in his graveyard shenanigans, though Voltz should be killing him pretty quickly after casting that sweeper if he even needs to.
Ross will use his whole turn to flashback Faithless Looting. He draws a Bridge from Below and another Shriekhorn. So this is a lot slower than what we saw in previous games from Ross Merriam's deck.
And in a matchup where he needs to be a lot faster.
Yeah. It's not without hope, though. Greater Gargadon on all these Prized Amalgams with Bridge from Below, there's play.
Yeah, it can get somewhere. He needs to find a way to get them onto the battlefield. He needs to start flipping over Narca Amoeba or Bloodghast. He has 1 copy of Haunted Dead.
Yeah, he said, talking with him before the top 8, he wished he had played more copies of that card. So Matt Voltz will on that step go fetch out the first of what is to be many mountains. And Ross actually had a tough choice there, so he only can discard 2 cards off Faithless Looting. He had a third Amalgam, a Bridge from Below, and a Golgari Grave Troll, which he wanted to discard. He had to pick one to keep in his hand. He ended up keeping the third Amalgam in his hand.
Yeah, the Grave Troll definitely needs to get in the graveyard. He needs to be able to dredge a lot of cards and actually find this stuff that can start triggering Amalgams. And then beyond that, it's somewhat trivial. The Bridge is more impactful immediately with the Gargadon. So I do like that discard.
The first of 2 Search for Tomorrows comes off Suspend for Matt Voltz, getting him his 3rd land drop. Now he'll get to have 4 lands, and Voltz is actually very land heavy here. One of the complaints about the Valakut deck is that you have very little control over your draw steps.
Yeah.
So we go back to Ross Merriam. He'll dredge Grave Troll, take a counter off his Gargadon. He really wants to find something like a Bloodghast, and on the 6th and final card, he does it. You could see it on his face, too, as he flipped the first 5. He was thinking, where are my Narcomoebas? Where are my Bloodghasts?
Yeah. And now, with the way this game is playing on, Voltz certainly can't sit there and play a slow Valakut game. He has to find his haymakers. He has to get Primeval Titan.
And actually, just casting Titans, probably not enough here. He probably needs to breach it at this point.
Yeah.
Ross will play Shriekhorn, mill himself for 2, play a land. Here is the copy of Bloodghast. 2 prized amalgams in the graveyard. They'll come around on end step. Ross is going to immediately sack the Bloodghast, and he'll get a zombie off of Bridge from below. And then, oh, look at this. Sacrifice the fetch land. Get Bloodghast back again. This is adorable. So yeah, the mountain will enter the battlefield. Here comes Bloodghast. Right back.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Voltz's life total is 18.
Okay.
Greater Gargadon has 9 power.
We're not talking about this turn, are we?
Ross Merriam has 7 permanents in play.
No. Absolutely not. should we just feed it all to him?
Let's just stop talking about that nonsense right away.
No. So Ross will get back the Bloodghast. He flashes back Faithless Looting with that land. He wants to dredge more, and boy is he going to. He dredges another Bridge from below, 2 Narcomoebas.
Okay, you were saying no. You were saying no. I think I like a little Gargadon beatdown here.
We didn't have like 3 Bridge from belows, no, 2 I believe it is. We didn't have all those yet. That doesn't count.
Oh, ye of little faith.
Well, now, yes. Now it seems, well, I don't know. This is interesting. So yes, Ross can sack all these Narcomoebas, make 1.5 million zombies, attack with the Gargadon. But Gargadon is giving him Anger of the Gods insurance right now.
Well, so is having a 9/7 in play.
That's not insurance. He can still kill that. Kind of.
How can he kill that and cast Anger of the Gods?
2 bolts and an Anger. It exists.
We're going to play around that? You're going to play around
if we
that?
can, why not?
What
do you think you're going to lose? I guess you're going to lose next turn?
How much damage does Breach Tartan do next turn? Is it all of it? Is it 18?
Are we killing him this turn? That's actually a real question. 9 from Gargadon. I don't know where the other 9 are coming from. I mean,
he can't get another 9. He's tapped all his mana, so there's nothing like Conflagrate, and he can't give Bloodghast haste before the Gargadon connects.
Okay, so we're killing Matt Voltz on the following turn, right?
Yes.
Regardless. Okay, then no. Then I don't want to. Then let's just do that, right? We don't need to sack the Gargadon now. We don't need to, or put him into play now. You're right that if Voltz just breaches a Titan into play next turn, Ross dies. But that was always the case.
Yeah, I suppose he has enough power to make it lethal with the Gargadon next turn. I really just want to see a Greater Gargadon attack in this tournament.
Yeah, it has not happened yet. Gargadon is eating most of Ross's things. No, he's going to do it. Gargadon down to 2. This might be a misstep. It puts him... We'll see. Yeah, he's going for it. Gargadon into play. All right.
There we go. Yeah.
Swing 7. Ross Merriam, a bolder man than I. We'll see if he is rewarded for it. He'll take half the life total right here. Matt Voltz drops from 18 to 9.
Go big or go home.
Now 1 million prized amalgams. More like 2 will enter the battlefield.
2 million?
3. Okay, 3 prized amalgams. Voltz will fetch and go down to 8. Does he have Anger Bolt? That would be so good. He probably doesn't. That's a lot of cards to have all at the same time, especially when your main deck has 2 lightning bolts.
Especially when your hand has like 3 lands.
You will search for tomorrow. But breaching a Titan here will win regardless of the scenario.
Breaching an Emrakul will come up a bit short.
Yeah, that's like, all right. So I don't know, or usually play the versions with Emrakul because of, I played one game of PlayStation where I started thinking, I would rather breach the Titan. And I was like, this is messed up. Emrakul is supposed to be the 15 drop, and I want the 6 drop instead of it? What is this? Voltz drew an Emrakul. Does he have the breach for it?
That might be speaking to an issue with the design space of Primeval Titan.
I mean, there's a reason I play it in every deck. That card's phenomenal. And Matt Voltz, land 6, passes. So he's holding up Summoning Trap mana.
If he can Summoning Trap into Wall of Glare, it can't block Narcomoebas, but it does survive the turn. Issues being that card is neither modern, legal, or in his deck.
Into Fortune Thief. Nope. This is going to be a tough one. I don't know.
Can Avatar of Hope block any number of creatures? I believe it has that same text box.
He could trap into Platinum Angel. There you go. Got it. He doesn't play the card.
Cataract Leviathan?
Love it. All right, so Ross, we go back to his turn, and it's a huge army, and game 1 goes to the Dredge player.
Yeah, Voltz's hand really, he got off to a good start. The turn 1 search for tomorrow, great.
Yeah.
After that, everything was just not great. Just didn't do what he needed to do.
It's really picky about what kind of finisher he wants, right? You had a Primeval Titan, a Summoning Trap, a Emrakul. Those are great things to ramp into, but it's not actually enough to clean up that level of stuff.
Mm.
And he had, I thought he had the Anger of the Gods, which that's a great card. And having it in his opener, not going to get there. It's Ross Merriam wins game 1.
Yeah, and Greater Gargadon is really what did it for Merriam here. That was the insurance against the anger of the gods.
Right. Which the insurance, right. So, yeah, he puts the 9/7 into play. I mean, red-green removal is all going to be damage-based, and that's a huge pair of numbers.
Right. 7 is
Yeah.
more than 2 3s.
All right, so we're going to go to the sideboard. We'll look first at Matt Voltz. Red-green breach. He's going to have to win a pair of games now that he has picked up his first loss in the top 8. We see another copy of Summoning Trap, 2 Lightning Bolts, a Grim Lavamancer, a Shatterstorm, 2 Ancient Grudges, a third copy of Anger of the Gods, 2 Sudden Shocks, 2 Relic of Progenitus, 2 Obstinate Baloth, and a Crumble to Dust.
The third anger and the 2 Relic of Progenitus are really what I'm looking at here.
Those seem excellent.
I kind of like Grim Lavamancer because of what I talked about earlier with Burn. It can just get into the battlefield, shoot itself, and remove the bridges from Miriam's graveyard.
Yeah, that part's pretty nice. Wouldn't mind doing that. There might be some value to just boarding in some Lightning Bolts. Some of his cards don't do too much here. He's got 2 Summoning Trap in the main, which I'm not sure.
Too slow. Yeah, that one's not going to do it.
The key card in this match for Matt Voltz is almost certainly Through the Breach.
Yep.
But he's a red-green deck. He doesn't get to find it. He just has to draw it.
Yep.
All right, Ross Merriam side. A playset of Leyline of the Void. 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Nature's Claim, 2 Gnaw of the Bone, 2 Abrupt Decay, 1 Conflagrate, 1 Collective Brutality, 1 Dark Blast.
These cards are pretty poor here. The only card that I think we might see is Gnaw to the Bone because you can get out of range of getting run over by the quick Primeval Titan. If you can get above the range of losing to the early Through the Breach, maybe he has a clock that's fast enough to overcome it otherwise. It's kind of interesting how many matchups Gnaw to the Bone actually comes in.
Yeah, it's a bit of a... I'm not even sure he'll do it, though. Life gain against a Valakut deck on its surface seems great. And against the blue Valakut versions, if you get above 36, it becomes kind of an issue for them. Against the ones that are just a giant stack of mountains, the red-green ones, the amount of life you have to gain to start affecting their clock is usually out of reach of life gain spells.
Yeah, the only reason is a consideration is specifically because we're talking about Dredge.
Yeah, if you think that the Gnaw to the Bone is going to gain 20, I'm in. I mean, on each half, so 40.
Right. It's also just the fact that he doesn't have to draw it.
Right.
But yeah, there's really, in his main deck, you know, I don't think I want to cut on Bridges and Greater Gargadons here. I'm pretty sure those are all great. So there's really not anything that I'm excited to sideboard out except, you know, the Shriekhorn, which I think is the card that kind of goes to at least trimming for a lot of these matchups.
So Ross Merriam going for his 4th open win here on the SCG Tour. Next weekend, keep in mind, we have the Season 2 Invitational. If you want to qualify for it, we'll go ahead and tell you just how to do that after this game. They are underway for the match. Matt Voltz on the play once again starts off on Search for Tomorrow.
Hopefully his follow-ups from here are a little better, and I have spotted a Through the Breach and a Primeval Titan in his hand.
Great. Faithless Looting from Ross Merriam. Those are Through the Breach is the most important card in this matchup.
Yep.
For Ross, he's got a lot of the tools. He'll discard Grokari Grave Troll Prized Amalgam. Pretty big fan. He'll pass back.
Yep.
Search for Tomorrow down to 1. The question is, can Matt Voltz get to 5 mana in time?
Right. I spotted the spells. Question is what we have in terms of ramp spells and if he's able to make his land drops.
Sakura Tribuilder, go. from Voltz. Keep in mind, Voltz has a turn 3 on the play right now in his hand.
Yep.
He doesn't have the land, I believe. A dredge from Ross Merriam of Grave Troll.
There's a Bloodghast to trigger the Amalgam as well.
Right. The Sack Tri-Belter has some interesting value in this matchup where it is Matt Voltz's way to control Bridge from Below's.
Yeah, that is a pretty sweet interaction.
Not going to matter here, though. Voltz is just pedal to the metal, going to try to win. A turn 3 Titan off a Breach, as long as you don't have 2 non-mountains in play. So you get 1 Forest or 1 Valakut. That is set up so that if you have Forest 4 lands, you can deal 12 off the Valakuts and 6 off the Titan. If you have Valakut 4 lands, you get all 18 right off the Valakuts.
Okay. So here's a really interesting play from Merriam here.
Okay.
Collective Brutality, because the Sakura Tri-Belter is in play, he gets to discard 2 cards.
Because he can declare it as a target.
Yes.
Look at it declare yeah, I guess he didn't.
And actually, that duress is going to be backbreaking.
So, oh wow, he's gonna go ahead and fully escalated. So he gets a card from Voltz's hand. Voltz just had it all. He had the land, the Breach, and the Titan. I mean, this is the hand for Matt. Ross has an answer.
The Sakura Tri-Belter is on the table, and Ross is looking at Voltz's hand. Did he just let it get hit by the -2/-2?
Oh, Ross went for his own Bloodghast.
Oh,
it
okay.
looks like.
All right.
Oh, he has a Bridge from Below in his graveyard. Great.
Yeah,
Actually, because of this Bridge from Below, it's probably with that spell in the stack, Matt should have sacked Tri-Belter to get rid of that Bridge.
Target was,
yeah. When you play a deck as complicated as Dredge, you frequently look like a fool because you miss your own triggers, and then you get to look great because your opponents also miss your triggers because your deck's really hard.
Yes.
Now here's Sack Tri-Belter from Matt Voltz. So 1 zombie is the price. And Bridge exiled. Matt going to go up to land number 3. It's his 3rd mountain. He'll get 4 right on his upkeep off that search.
Can he just top deck another
Just
Breach?
top deck Breach.
That's what I would do.
The best defense against Thoughtseized to simply take the card they Thoughtseized. He finds his 4th mountain.
And Merriam is still pretty far from actually killing Voltz.
Right.
So he has a 5th land. He has a Primeval Titan. So there's some draws that make it so we're still playing Magic. You know, Merriam has to turn up the heat here.
Draw is Sakura Tri-Belter from Voltz. He'll play a land, he'll play a Tri-Belter. Gives him more insurance against Bridge from Below's. We'll go back over to Ross Merriam.
Tri-Belter also technically gains a little bit of life, gets to hop in front of the Amalgam.
It'll be interesting to see how decks go forward with Dredge doing so well this weekend. I was thinking about that Summoner's Pact in Matt Voltz's hand. We may have to get to the point where he starts boarding cards like Loaming Shaman. If we go there, though, I mean, it would have been his play.
Yeah. That's one you've really never seen too often, but it's a really interesting card from Dissension.
It's a green thing that makes them shuffle their graveyard into their deck.
Yep.
So you get a 3/3, too. 3/2.
Yeah, that is Dissension, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Not today, though. No one really was. Some people were getting ready for Dredge. No one knew it would be like this. Here's an attack for 5 from Ross Merriam. Voltz is at 16. Block sack. Blocked the 3 power creature.
Good block. I like the call.
Matt now has 5 mountains, meaning once he has a Valakut in play, he's got the number that every additional mountain's a lightning bolt. And you'll see him start to conserve mountains beyond this point. The deck he plays 12, so you don't want to go too ham on fetching them all. Ross suspends, I love this deck, suspends Greater Gargadon and conflagrates for 0, says go.
This is the kind of stuff you expect to
Love
experience in constructed Magic.
And more Primeval Titans look to be the situation for Matt Voltz. So he'll crack his fetch land. He'll get land 6. He'll play Primeval Titan. One of my favorite parts about this deck is that you just get to play Taigas.
Yeah, the Cinderglade is. This is the one modern deck that this is like a really significant improvement, is getting to play the battle lands.
Yeah, so his play will be Primeval Titan, 2 Valakuts, and then a nice request for Ross to please not kill him.
It's going to be tough for Ross to kill him. He's on 13.
He's got a chump blocker. That's what, yeah. Not impossible, but
You're right.
I agree. Because he has a Conflagrate in the yard.
I believe he has 2 cards in hand, though.
All right, we're a little short right now then.
just a touch.
I think the idea is that if Ross gets Matt low enough, he can force the Titan on Gargadon block. Which now, of course, Matt's going to play just another Titan. But,
Yes.
I mean, if the Titan doesn't die this turn, Ross is going to die on the next.
Yep.
Ross will die.
Ross has to figure out a way to try to make that happen this turn. If he finds it, I'll be very impressed.
His hand, Insolent Neonate, Narcomoeba. One other card. So I was going to say, if he discards his whole hand, Matt Voltz will be at 10, and the Bloodghasts will have haste, except that he'll have no land to bring them back with.
Few trivial details.
Tough spot here from Ross Merriam.
9, not a small number of time counters to need to remove from the Gargadon.
Yeah. With that bridge from below being exiled, thanks to Sakura Tri-Builder, it would be hard. He's going to go ahead and attack for 5 at Voltz. Swinging into the 6/6. Yes, he can finish off the Titan with a Conflagrate. From Voltz's side, though, the Titan's not actually a big resource. It already did its work. You just throw those guys away.
Yeah. He'll be able to just cast another one in the next turn.
He blocked a token. Took 3 Volts down to 10. The token was sacked to Gargadon too. You see it move down to 8. For Ross Merriam, he plays Insolent Neonate. Immediately sacrifices it. Discards Narcomoeba and dredges Golgari Grave Troll. So it's interesting he's doing all this after combat. And he dredges into nothing good. We are on to game 3. Both players now have picked up a loss.
Yeah, I believe what Ross was doing there was not conceding. I don't think he really had a prayer in that game.
With a perfect 6 cards, can he put something together that wins?
I don't even know if he can put something together that blocks.
All right. So we were talking about how next week we have the Invitational. If you are not qualified and want to try to get qualified for next week's Invitational or ones after that, we have the Star City Games Invitational qualifiers, which, of course, happen weekly all over the country. So you want to find out more about these. They give away exclusive prizes. You get the playmat, top 8 pin, tokens from the most recent Invitational winner, which at least for now is still Max McVitie. Of course, we'll be crowning a new one next weekend in New Jersey. As well as that, you get the invitation itself. It is good for any of the next 3 invitationals after you win it. So you get a full year to use that invite. You can find out more, such as registering for them or finding one near you. StarCityGames.com/IQ.
IQs, great tournaments. Invitationals, the tournaments they feed, also great tournaments.
Ross Merriam back on the plate here for game 3. We've seen an interesting pair of games, and they've been playing out differently than I would have thought. Matt Voltz's hand there, he didn't breach a Titan. He didn't play an Anger of the Gods. I believe with the suspends on the play, he made what ended up being a turn 5 Primeval Titan on the play, which is a turn 6 win if they don't kill it. And it turned out that was just good enough.
So when it comes to dredge, if you are the luckiest, you can say cast a turn 1 Insolent Neonate, activate it, discard a Grave Troll, dredge the Grave Troll, flip over 4 Bloodghasts, 2 Prized Amalgams. Play a land on
All
your
right,
turn.
I'm down. I like what's happening right now. This is my kind of magic.
Play a land on your turn. Put 8 power into the battlefield, 6 more join in at the end step.
This is how I want all my dredge games to go.
This is abstractly possible. It is quite improbable in practice.
Yeah, so I was going to say, we play these decks so that we can have that experience that you just described.
Yes.
Ross has kept on the play. What about Matt Voltz? He's got a basic forest in his opener. I'll tell you, in Red-Green Breach, the worst card in the deck, by miles, is your second copy of Basic Forest.
It's sort of the equivalent of the rest of the format's Basic Mountain.
It's way worse than that. It will. Part of signing up or playing the deck is when you draw your second Basic Forest, it will cost you games, like entire game. You know, it is that bad. The next worst card is the first Basic Forest. It's that one's actually okay. We'll never cut that one. But boy, when we first came about the deck, I can't tell you how many discussions we had of we should really play the second Basic Forest in the sideboard. It's so bad. And then the response would be, I'm putting a basic land in my sideboard. I really like having a 15-card sideboard and not a 14. And there have been very good Magic players in this deck who actually played out of the board because it is that bad.
Yeah, I mean, it sets you back on the timelines for your Valakuts. That's not what you want.
It just doesn't do anything. You know, you're just going to miss 3-6 damage off it. But it is the way you get your second green. So, yeah, I suppose.
Checks out.
When they Blood Moon you, it's really bad, and if you don't have two basic forests, you really can't win.
Fair enough.
Matt Voltz has kept on 6, and we are underway. This is the finals. Ross Merriam will start. It is Steam Vents. It is Faithless Looting. And we'll see just how good of a start he has put together. Looks like plenty of lands in Ross's hand. Hard for Dredge to actually get flooded. It's like, right?
Yeah, they can just discard Faithless Looting. Typically, they want to be discarding spells, so these lands are kind of whatever, and you just discard them to Conflagrate if it comes to it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when I'm a Dredge player, I like having lots of lands in my opener because that's about the only time I ever get to draw one.
Yeah. Unless I'm worried about, only having one enabler and getting just duressed or spell pierced, though.
Discard of a Bloodghast and a Grave Troll for Ross. And now he'll dredge the Grave Troll, and he hopes it's a good one. It's pretty reasonable. He gets a Narc Amoeba and a Bridge from Below, as well as the next Grave Troll.
Yeah, he'll be able to keep working at the self-mill.
Turn 3 has a Faithless Looting at the ready. Matt, for the first game, this match did not have a turn 1 search for tomorrow. On the draw, it is what he's looking for. So Ross will play Mana Confluence, get back Bloodghast. Now cast his first spell of the turn. It is Shriekhorn.
And what a spell it is.
Can't beat that one. Interesting here. Normally, I'm surprised we didn't see Shriekhorn mill 2 then the land.
Yeah,
maybe he mills
Bloodghast. Get back a Bloodghast, right?
Probably doesn't matter.
One thing
if you mill Amalgam would be great.
Story I've been hearing all this tournament is just how complex the modern Dredge deck is, and even Ross and Tom Ross, despite making top 8, they've made a few mistakes on the way, they've been saying.
Matt Voltz will fetch and Farseek here. Yeah, I think the deck's really complex. What I like about it is that it's the same decisions and the same ordering each time. So if you want to go home and practice this, I think you can reach a point where you make all these decisions in the right order.
Yeah.
Right? The idea of Shriekhorning, then land dropping, that's going to be true like just always. Once you learn how to do it that way, the memory of that will kick in.
Mm-hmm. And a number of these things do change depending on hate cards.
And just as, how about the prized Amalgam and Bloodghast on top of Ross's deck?
Yeah, that could have dealt 5 more points on this turn.
Of course, he named that those are the only 2 cards that would have mattered, and they were both of the top cards.
Ross Merriam is not the type of person to forgive himself for that if that impacts the outcome of this matchup. Maybe not even if he wins.
Well, he still has a great start. Voltz 3 lands. His only play has been a turn 2 Farseek. Now Ross draws. It's interesting. I believe he had a Dredger, but he's choosing to draw.
Concern over Anger of the Gods.
Fair enough. He'll swing for 3. Voltz down to 16. Prized Amalgam, Conflagrate, Mana Confluence in Ross's hand. He's got a couple more. Haven't caught a glimpse of those ones.
If the draw step were a greater Gargadon, he'd feel a lot better about his position.
Now it's into the tank. He's got a lot of his tools at the ready. Plays Mana Confluence. Bloodghast into play. Delayed trigger of Prized Amalgam. Takes 2, goes to 16. Flashes back Faithless Looting.
So now he wants to get more amalgams into his graveyard. So this one can come in on the end step, which will trigger more if he gets them into his graveyard during Voltz's turn. So we'll still have some creatures on the table should Voltz have Anger of the Gods.
So his first, he's actually just drawing 2. Draws a Bridge from Below and a Stinkweed Imp.
Right.
Now discards
He
2.
does have an amalgam in his hand, so we'll at least be able to put that one in the graveyard if that's the plan.
So I guess the hope here is that his opponent does not have Anger of the Gods.
Yes.
But if he dodges it, it's looking good for Ross. Second Amalgam and Grave Troll now in the yard. So Ross has not been dredging this game.
Well, Voltz's graveyard hate is Relic of Progenitus. So as soon as he plays that, he can immediately remove all of Ross's graveyard. So he's kind of dancing around that as well.
Okay, so Ross gets back, right, that was the first delayed prized amalgam. The second one, the one under the Grave Troll there, it's not going to enter the battlefield because it didn't see the Bloodghast happen.
It will be coming in on Voltz's end step.
Yeah. And big sigh of relief for Ross. He passes back to Matt Voltz, fears Anger of the Gods, but for Voltz, it's Farseek.
Considerably less good.
You see another Farseek in Voltz's hand. He's opting not to cast it. That's by virtue of the fact that he has 5 mountains, and there's not really a benefit of getting another mountain out of his deck.
Yeah, not until he has the Valakut in play.
Right. And Farseek, specifically Farseek, can't get you a basic mountain. If it could, you'd probably do it because why not? So, Ross.
And Ross now has 8 power on the battlefield, exactly half of Voltz's life total.
And he is so close. Draws again off the top. Still not dredging here. Draws Dakmor Salvage. He's got Conflagrate in his hand. And he'll just swing out with the creatures. This is 8 damage. You called it, half of Voltz's life total. Ross has to think, is there a way, if he mills the right card with Shriekhorn first, or does the right things, could this be lethal this turn? Okay, so what? There's a judge call here. The second prized amalgam trigger, the one that was going to happen at the end of Voltz's turn, that was missed. So the ruling here, I think the judge, Matt Voltz, gets to decide whether or not to put Ross's trigger on the stack. Matt is going to decline.
Chooses not to let Ross have more power on the table.
I believe this is a beneficial trigger. We'll get an official ruling here. We see head judge Casey Breska stepping in here. So yeah, the trigger was missed. The question we'll let you know the resolution in just a second here. Obviously not the kind of trigger that Ross would intentionally miss. I'm sure he would like to have another 3/3 on the board.
Yeah, especially with access to Conflagrate. He's getting to the point where he can actually win the game outside of combat by using that with enough cards in hand.
All right. We go back to Ross's turn. So, a swing is for 8. Okay, but you can't just say no to it? Okay, so the ruling here is it's a delayed zone change from the judge, which is slightly different than a delayed trigger. Voltz, it seems, had the option to pick whether the change happened right now or at a different point, and so he can't just say no, you don't get the prized amalgam. It is going to go on the stack. So that was Matt Voltz said, okay, well, we'll put it on the stack now. So see, Ross gets the amalgam, but because it waited until Ross's turn, it is tapped, can't attack this turn.
Sure. And now that other amalgam in the graveyard entering the battlefield at the end of Ross's turn because of that trigger.
Right. Prized amalgams do this great thing where they like to bring each other along for the ride. They're a little slow at it, though, because they're zombies. We go back to Matt Voltz. He's now facing down a very lethal attack. He needs a card like Anger of the Gods or Through the Breach. But both would be so good.
It looks like he has neither, though. Just a bunch of green cards.
Yeah. 3 Amalgams, 2 Bloodghast, and a Narcomoeba. But he's got Primeval Titan, Summoning Trap. Some big game here. But even if he gets a Primeval Titan into play, I don't think it's enough. And he says, yeah, there's no outs. He's going to extend the hand. And Ross Merriam is your Syracuse Open champion, winning the finals in 3 with Dredge, taking his 4th title here on the SCG Tour.
Really impressive stuff. Well done by Ross, and great weekend by Voltz as well. Can't take anything away from him. This red-green breach deck, pretty neat.